Hello, and welcome to the 15th episode of Columbus Local Podcast. Well, the first episode was with Larz Raymond, and Larz is back again tonight, and this is the Larz Raymond Redo episode. Larz, thanks for coming, man.
Oh, it's cool. Thanks for having me, Len. And congratulations. This thing's really taken off.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of fun. It's great, and it's purposed, and it's all a part of community.
And so many stories and so many egos that need to be stoked. Oh, I kid.
We're all entertainers, man.
We had a 2.5 hour pregame warm up, so this should be interesting.
Yeah. So this evening, we Larz and I are 3 weeks away from a big birthday this year. So we had the opportunity to partake upon a fine gift that he bestowed in honor of that. So thank you again for that.
Oh,
Larz.
my pleasure.
I think, when we did the first podcast, we talked about a lot of what's going on in your background, and we really spent some time just kind of touching the surface of your time in Los Angeles on Sunset Strip. And thought it'd be fun if we could let you talk a little bit about some of that if you want, and we'll adventure into wherever else you take us, man.
No, that's cool. With I tried to actually put some notes down because, last time we just winged it, and one story just opens up into 10 more off the same story, and the next thing you know, you're done. So I did some homework this time.
It's all good, man. I appreciate you coming tonight. It's going to be good stuff.
This is awesome, as always. So, what do you want to know?
Well, let's roll with some of the times that you had on Sunset Strip, and is there anything that you want to share with the podcast episode?
Sure. So we got to this point last time. We did formative years up to this, and I think I did a couple stories about it, but heck, we should just start right off. So when I was 20, I decided to go to Musicians Institute in Hollywood, and left my family and my girlfriend and my friends and everything. And it was like, but I was going to Hollywood, so it was pretty cool, right? So, I say goodbye to everyone. I get to LAX and I get in the cab, and, I'm just like, oh, like, this is great. I'm looking at everything in Hollywood and stuff. So I get to my apartment. This is a great start to I get to I have 2 suitcases. All I have is 2 suitcases. I know no one. There's no, there's like a stove and your basic stuff and a futon or whatever there. I get to the apartment. There's a locked gate. I get into my suitcase and I can't get the suitcase open. Turns out I picked up the wrong suitcase.
Dude.
It has the apartment key in it. Oh, so we're off to a great start, right? But anyway, it's a Friday night, and the boulevard is just electric. There's like low riders, like everyone would go to the boulevard on the weekends, and so I was like right off the boulevard. Like I said, Orchard Street was right behind Man's Shining Cedar, right next to the Holiday Inn. So it's just electric, and I get there and I'm so juiced up, and now I can't get in the apartment. So there's some dude up there, but you can see people partying in apartments, open doors and stuff going on. The boulevard's loud. You've got, like I said, the lowriders jacking up and down. They come in on the weekends. Kids would bring big cardboard things. Breakdancing was big, and there was breakdancing going on. Everyone's just everywhere. But the apartment itself was raging as well. But I didn't know anyone, so I see somebody up there, and the guy's walking around. And I said, "Hey, man," he looks like he's probably in his 20s. And I said, "Listen, I just moved here, and I don't have my key." I said, "Can you let me in?" He looks down at me. Are you jiggling? That's cool. That's Len on me. And he looks down, and I ask him, "Could you let me in?" He goes, "Hey, man, do you like Dio?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Do you like Dio?" And I'm like, "I love Dio." He's like, "All right, man, I'll be right down." And so I'm glad I liked Dio. So he comes down, lets me in. Luckily, the superintendent's there and lets me in my apartment, right?
That's cool.
So I'm like happy now, but look, I get into my apartment, and I've got 2 suitcases. I've got a clock radio as my only audio, right? No TV, no nothing. That's when it hits me. I'm all alone. My friends, my family, my girlfriend's at home. I don't know anyone. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is cool, but all of a sudden reality sets in. The whole glamour of Hollywood and going to Hollywood's great. So basically, yeah, I just went out, and there were people coming in out of their apartments and stuff, and I just, found a couple people I could talk to, and then the next day, the guy across the hall, John, who was from Cleveland, he took me out and got me some stuff. Like he told me where to go get, like down the boulevard to get your like spoons and forks, and like I still need to get all that stuff. So. Yeah, that was my big entrance into Hollywood. No key to get in my own place.
No key. I'm here. I got no key. Oh, man.
And so, I got to know the tenants were cool. They were eclectic, to say the least. You had all kind of... The people that had a place next to me. This was just a studio apartment. They worked at, like, the air... I don't know. They had some, like... aerodynamic, like high-paid jobs, but they loved Hollywood, so they got like to get seedy on the weekends, And then John lived across the hall. John was the chef. At the Holiday Inn was right next door, and it had 23 floors. And the top floor rotated, so really slowly around the edge, so that you could see all of Hollywood slowly. My mom took me out there first, and my brother, to find a place, We're from Lancaster, so for my mom to go to Hollywood, I got to give her kudos. Thanks, Mom. And so every day, she's like, every day we had to go to the top of the Holiday Inn and eat. You guys wanted to go there every day. I'm like, we didn't know where to go. That was the coolest place there. We were staying there. Why go somewhere else? So we did. And I'm going to try and grab a quick photo here if I can find it. But anyway, John was the chef. He was tall, black guy, and he talked like this. Mr. Larz. He called me Mr. Larz. He was the head chef at the restaurant on top of the Holiday Inn, and it was nice. And, like, they had a happy hour downstairs. And he'd be like, hey, we're having wings at the happy hour. We were poor. I mean, we had, like, mayonnaise sandwiches, veg all, ramen noodles, And so he would give us the heads up, like, and if you bought a beer for $1.75, you could eat whatever. So you'd see a lot of MI musicians in there, and a lot of starving artists around there.
You learn from the best.
So with that in mind, the first person to come visit me out there was Biggie on his birthday. So here is a picture. I know no one can see it. Biggie posted on his post before. There's us at 21 years old on top of the Holiday Inn having 2 blue hurricanes.
Love it, man.
Young.
Nice picture.
21 years old, right? So that was up there what I'm talking about.
You want to send that to me? I can attach it to some of the media we have on the episode if you'd like.
Okay, I can do that.
It's up to you.
Yeah, but not right this second. So it was cool. So you had that going on. The tenant had like One-Eyed Dave downstairs and his girl. And Bon Jooni looked like Aladdin. He lived across the other side of the swimming pool. Marianne was an art student who liked to color her armpit hair like neon green and stuff. She was wild. She was cool. She lived there. And like I said before, Izzy Stradlin from Guns N' Roses lived downstairs and over a few doors. Some girl that used to be like an extra, like on the old show The Love Boat, where you'd see the girls sitting around the pool. She was my neighbor for a while, but she was like Bigfoot. She was elusive. We'd always be listening, like I want to get a glimpse of her, and you'd hear the door shut, and you'd look out, and she'd be gone. And I was just like, oh. And then I would sit there for like hours, going, I'm waiting to hear that door open. I want to see what she. I got a glimpse of her once. I think it was just a crash pad for her,
No doubt.
So those were some of the cool tenants that we had there. So we had that going on. Basically, I've got notes this time because the last time we were all over the place. So I'll just go into another story. So when I get out there I'm in school, but I'm also playing in a band. I auditioned for someone to get the gig, and we go into a place called Sound Image Studios. So we're doing a demo. It's original stuff and 3 songs. And it just happens to be that the engineer on this and producer just happens to be John Henning, which John Henning is the engineer and producer on the live REO Speedwagon record, You Get What You Play For. Just so happens, Riding the Storm Out was my senior class's song. So my senior class's song, the engineer and producer, John Henning, is the first person I get to work with when I get out there.
That's a connection, man. That's a small world, isn't it?
I mean, it was
Is
crazy.
That a small world?
Yeah, it was crazy. So he was great. He used to hang out too. He lived down by the beach, but he would drive up to Hollywood and hang out every once in a while. And so we did that demo, and that was the beginning of the first edition of Blackjack. And so we got that, and then we sent it to KNAC and KLOS, who were the big radio stations in LA at the time. And like here, they would have a local show. And it wasn't easy. There's so many bands out there. It's just utterly ridiculous. But we got, we did get those on both of those stations. So
What year are we talking?
I want to say this was probably 85.
Okay.
I went out there, I think I got out there in 84. And so this would have been 85. And at this point, I'm still in MI. I'm still in school. But and I just remember going to Billy's house, and Billy King was a guitar player, and all of us sitting around just anticipating, like, hearing ourselves on our favorite station. So no different than, like here, we've all been on the radio around here and stuff. So but it was really exciting back then, So that's where it went with the John Henning thing. So, and then some of the stuff I did, when I tell these stories, it's not like I'm anything special. It's just I was young and I just went there, and I was fortunate to have some good times. So, but I think just today, since we touched on me and my up and stuff, I think I'm just gonna try and remember as many stories as I can here, and I got some on the notes. So, like one of the times I was on my way home, it wasn't in Hollywood, but like on my way home, I was in the St. Louis airport for catching another flight, and there's nobody in there. There's one lady. It's like 3 a.m. There's one lady at the counter, and I'm coming down a corridor. I see one crumpled business suit guy, and there's nobody else there. And coming down the hallway is this big lanky dude, right? Got like a striped shirt on, and I get to go close, and I go, "My God, that's Joey Ramone." Like, there's nobody else in the airport, like literally. And I just pass, and I'm like, I'm not like the guy that gets autographs or anything like that. I'm like, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, who? And he just passes me, and I passed him, and got on the airplane and left, man.
Damn.
I was a big Ramones fan, so I thought that was kind of cool.
Even
though that wasn't in Hollywood, it was one of the times I was on a flight home from Hollywood. So, so and that first episode, my voice sounded. You made me sound like Bob Dylan.
No,
Len, why did you do it to me? How could you make me sound like Bob Dylan?
I didn't do anything on purpose. We had a couple of factors, right? But it was like any startup. You learn a lot at the first rodeo
right.
episode, and
right.
I appreciate you being the
fun,
guinea pig. It was. The content's awesome. The technical challenge has been resolved.
Yes, it sounds great. I've heard every single one of these, honestly. You're doing a great job, man.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I try to
a lot of my friends have been on here,
checking it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, we got this going on through the end of the year, like
right.
That's
awesome.
1 to 3 a week.
That's incredible.
It'll be fun.
Yes, I'm so happy for you. Seriously.
Well, you're a part of it, man, and so is everyone else that is part of the music, whether they're on the podcast episodes or not. Right? It's a community that I think is really
There's such a wealth of great musicians. It's insane. People don't realize how much we do, but I don't think a lot of people, even the people that go see bands do, I think, but I think the vast majority of people that don't have no idea that where you can go anywhere and see so much talent.
It's a matter.
Anytime.
It's a matter of the product. You're a product of your environment, right?
Right.
And you might have an interest, and you think you know what music is because you're hearing it on the radio.
Right.
So you're listening to pop on the radio, of which many of that is just computer animation and AI and
right.
not really instrumentation and live performance at all.
Right.
It's all electronic and digital and whatnot. But you're right. I mean, it's a good point. It's going to be whatever you whatever you think it is, but there's so much other facets of what you don't know.
Right. Yeah, but it's just there's a lot of great stuff out here. And we just got back from vacation in Michigan, and just so happens we were close to Michigan City, Indiana. I don't know. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Michigan City is in Indiana. Okay, it's right by Michigan. I don't know. Anyway, I don't get that.
That's pretty wild.
Anyway, the first person that crashed at my pad, which I put up many people willingly and very happy that I could be the first one to go.
Los Angeles?
Right. Like I said, I was the first person out there. I didn't know anyone. So the first person that crashed at my place was Tim Miller, and he was from Indiana, and he's I put him up for just a little while. Till he could find a place. He's a bass player, went to BIT. It was MI, it's different versions of it depending on what instrument you play. Tim was a great bass player, and he's back in Michigan City. He'd been living in Japan for 20 years, teaching so MI had a Japanese location as well, and Tim taught there for like 20 years. Recently, he just moved back, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like 15 minutes from Michigan City, Indiana. I get a hold of him. I showed you the picture earlier. And first time I'd seen him in 39 years. 39 years. He still looked great, and he's still out there playing.
That's so cool.
But a story that relates to him was Timmy Bogart, that was in Vanilla Fudge and also Beck Bogart and Peace, came to teach at MI when we started, and that was when Tim was staying with me. That was his hero, Tim Bogart. And they kept him. Timmy just died a couple years ago, but they would get together every year still, all through all of this time. They were still friends. But he gets Tim to come over to I'm just turned 21. He gets Tim to come over to my little studio apartment. There's Tim Bogart, and I'm 21. And Tim Bogart, legendary bass players in there, right? And we may or may not have been doing a little party. It was Friday, school was out, and he starts, so there's a story of Led Zeppelin and the infamous Shark groupie story. Okay. Well, I just read about it. Well, Tim was on tour with them with Vanilla Fudge, and Tim tells the story firsthand of the Led Zeppelin Shark group. I'm not going to tell it. But here he is. Firsthand. He was there and tells the story and saw it, the whole thing.
Where was that located? In
I think
his neighborhood?
I think it was in Los Angeles. They were touring together.
Yep.
And so here I'm 20, Tim Bogart's telling the story of the legendary, and I'm just pinching myself. This is insane. Super nice guy, totally down there. Great bass player, but that was probably one of the first decent stories I had when I moved out
sweet.
there. Just another Friday afternoon in Hollywood. So that's kind of relating. That's how that kind of relates back to Tim Miller. So, but it was great seeing him out there. So, and then club wise, like I said, we played the Troubadour. That demo that we did that got on the radio, got us a residency. Blackjack. I told the other one I told last time was my first band, Jackal, with the limo story. But Blackjack got in there, and we got a residency at the Troubadour, so, we played every Sunday for a month, which was super cool. And I was out there before it was pay to play, so, that was happening. So that all went on, and that was a good time. But that was kind of my hang. But there were other clubs, too, the whiskey was down for a while. It did open right before I split again. So it wasn't even open for during the time I was playing the Troubadour. But there was another club up North Hollywood called Raji's, and so it was a punk / alternative rock place, and the place looked just like it sounded. It was Raji's, and it was kind of a dome. It had a kind of an Indian feel to it, and like Jane's Addiction played there, and like Green Days played there, and I used to just go see, Thelonious Monster. Just all kind of like really cool indie bands played there. So sometimes, even though I was a rocker, this was the opposite way. This was up North Hollywood. So Raji's was up there, and
did you go often? Did you hit it?
Yeah, I like the Troubadour scene and the Rainbow and stuff, but I like a lot of different stuff, and it was super cool to go up there and get to see some of those bands. Like we practiced actually Blackjack. Rehearsed at Mates, which was really nice. It was the nicest studio. But for a while, we rehearsed at someone named Pat, this 17-year-old kid that lived with his mom in the Valley. We called him the Weasel because he'd always have you down, and he'd be, "Oh, I got that gig booked." So he became the Weasel. And when we would come out, once in a while, we would come out of there, and like Jane's Addiction's out sitting on their car, and they would come in after us because there weren't many places to practice out there. Mates was nice. That was where all the bigger bands practiced, and it was well worth it. But for whatever reason, at this point, we had to go somewhere else, and we found this place. And somehow Jane's Addiction found that place too, and so they weren't big yet, really big yet either. So, and Guns N' Roses weren't signed yet either. When Izzy lived below me, he had a girlfriend that I think she worked the Seventh Veil, but she was a stripper. Blonde, and they rode around on an Indian motorcycle, which was really badass, right? But Izzy always had that long leopard skin Keith Richards in the middle of Hollywood summers. Izzy's got that long coat, and they doubled up on the Indian motorcycle. He had to be hot, but he looked cool. Izzy was extremely cool, so we had that going on. And then the other club was like a totally different club that was close to me was the Seven Seas. That's legendary. It had been around Hollywood for years. So I lived on Orchid. Orchid dead-ended on the Hollywood Boulevard, and where it dead-ended, the Seven Seas was right across the street. Man's Chinese Theater was right on the right side of where Orchid dead-ended. But the Seven Seas, I just had to go do stuff by myself. Like if I wanted to go to, let's say I wanted to go to the beach, Santa Monica, Venice, I took 2 buses. I just spent the day by myself. There were some lonely days out there, I'm not going to lie. But, it was what it was. Or if I went to the Troubadour by myself before anyone moved out there, I had to take a couple buses and I'd have to walk home because the buses didn't run. And that was a long walk with a guy with a gun belt and Harvey fatigues on. But the Seven Seas was legendary, and I really didn't go there much. It was just like I was bored. I went down there once, and
just to check it out.
A couple dudes hit on me, and next thing you know, I'm leaving with Mrs. Robinson. She's about 40, and she's got a convertible. And something about girls in convertibles out in Hollywood, I keep leaving with. The last story I told you, of the girl that stranded me out in the middle of nowhere had a convertible as well.
And did you ever see that person again?
No.
Negatory.
No, it was just, I needed a babysitter that night. I was lonely. So that was...
Right, but the night before your finals.
No, that's a different one.
Oh.
So let me tell you about that. That comes back around again as I look at my notes here. I'm flipping. I'm trying to stay focused here.
I appreciate the fact that you actually thought about what you wanted to cover.
Well, I knew we were going to pregame, and who knows where the conversation could have went. So, okay. So let's see. I went to the club. So from the clubs... there was a Haagen-Dazs, an actual little ice cream shop.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if they ever had it here. Did they ever have a Haagen-Dazs shop? It's just, you have to buy it in the store, don't you?
They're around.
Were they?
I think I've seen them in New York. I think they're in airports, too, actually.
Okay. So, Man's Chinese Theater took up the whole block that went to our street, other than there was a Haagen-Dazs squeezed in on the corner. And so, I'll never forget, Paul Gilbert was in my class, who was in Racer X and Mr. Big. He was on Guitar Magazine when he was 16. So he was in my class. And I remember being in front of Haagen-Dazs once, and Paul comes up and goes, "Man, I just got this greatest drummer. You're not gonna believe it, And we're all like, yeah, whatever, cool. We're all striving to make it. Turns out it was Scott Travis, who's been in Judas Priest for a long time, who's also in Racer X.
He beat you out, huh?
Oh man,
Like a pulp.
Paul was great too. Like Paul's silly. He's like everyone, knows Paul. Speaking of your former guest, my buddy Rob Johnson was on here. He did a guitar clinic at the Japanese MI while my buddy Tim was teaching there. Talk about a small world.
It's a small world.
And I just found that out hanging out with him. And
would you want to paint the world, given that it, it's still something big to paint. I didn't mean to interrupt you, man.
What happened? What just happened?
I don't know.
I'm confused.
There's too much going on in my head.
No, I'm not painting.
I'm just kidding.
Oh. So anyway, that was kind of fun, little thing, and I don't know. We're just telling stories. One time I was walking down Hollywood or Sunset Boulevard, and it was the middle of the day, and all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a shootout with the cops in an apartment, like literally middle of the day, beautiful. I'm skipping along, probably whistling, and all of a sudden I hear
he hates these cans.
All of a sudden I hear run, and I look up and there's a cop with a gun, right? And then I hear run, and the cops are on both sides of this apartment complex gate that goes in off Sunset, and they're both telling me to run the different direction, and I'm like, am I gonna die? And so I finally just ran the way I started. I was just like 1 minute you're just walking along
Take
there,
cover.
and the next you're in the middle of a gunfight. So.
Get to the chopper.
Yeah. The Arnold stories and Sylvester Stallone story comes later. That's not a Hollywood one. That's when I moved back. That's for a later date. So I don't know, Len. What do you got to say?
In regard to what?
Anything,
Dude, I'm
man.
just blown away by these memories.
I'm trying to
yours.
drop. I'm name dropping. I'm flushing these down the toilet. Like I'm trying to drop as many as I can. Let's see. Are we at the rainbow stories yet? How we doing on time?
We're in good shape, man.
We okay?
Absolutely. If we run out of juice here, we'll do as many episodes as you want.
Don't say that. Everyone already hates me because I'm on for the second. He's already done one. He's back on again. That guy. Why I was a sound check, so
things
you
have improved.
You felt bad.
Oh yeah.
You made me an offer I couldn't refuse, so I had to come back, Lena. I really appreciate it.
The important thing was we addressed it. Now, Matt Sestone helped me debug, some of those issues, and it wasn't easy. It took me like 2 months to
I bet.
debug it. It was more of a software thing than it was hardware. But I do appreciate the fact that the gear upgrade is going to go a long way.
Sure. I mean, you can tell such a
and
difference.
for music stuff too. This
Right.
is there's a iMac, and this is it's all studio.
It's
ready,
awesome.
Ready
It's
to
awesome.
Go. Audio interfaces, etc. So, but it was worth all that analysis and debugging. But to get back to you, man, this is about Larz Raymond tonight.
This was tough, 3.5 years out there trying to whittle it down. But I think that I'm hitting some okay stuff up. I think maybe you want me to tell a few of the rainbow stories from hanging out the rainbow.
I think you should.
Okay.
So those that don't know, like when you say rainbow, what are you talking?
The Rainbow Bar and Grill. It's on Sunset, and it's where all the rockers hang out. It's been there since Zeppelin was hanging there, even before that. They had like the Vampire Club, a little private.
That's me. Keep going.
A little private upstairs club. Who one of the monkeys was actually in this. This was a notorious party. Huey Lewis was a notorious partier in this gang of guys. Anyway, the Rainbows doesn't have bands, and it's just this is where all the rockers hang out and have for years. And when I went for $5, you could get in. And you could either get 2 beers or a drink with that. And so they had Stella Artois. So you figure, hanging out at the bow with a bunch of cats and for $5 and getting a couple beers, it was quite a deal. Now, if we went the drink route, you went for the Long Island iced tea because that was the most bang for your buck.
Stay
And
loaded for less.
They did it. They were serious about it. It would take a long time to finish a rainbow Long Island iced tea. So that was kind of cool. But let's see. Let me start with how about the Greg Bissonette, Nico McBrain? So Nico's Iron Maiden's drummer, and Greg Bissonette at the time was playing with David Lee Roth. It was really crowded. That was when I was playing the Trube. At the time, I decided I was going to play 2 bass drums. I had a black and a red 26s. I had the Bonham kit to start with, and I added another 26 black and red. The band was Blackjack. You see what's up here. So it's literally that night. It was me and Bissonette, Greg, and Nico in a corner huddled. And it was really crowded, just talking about drums. And this was like the height of Maidens, like those, Peace of Mind and that era. And it was after Number of the Beast, but he'd been in there for a little bit, and it was just great. It was just 3 drummers, and Nico's like, "Oh, you double bass drummers," because Greg was playing. Greg was in David Lee Roth's band, and he was playing a double kick back then. And Greg was super nice, and I would go on to see Greg. Like, when I came back, I taught at Coil Music, and Greg was, once he left David Lee Roth, was doing clinics. And he came to the Lancaster Coils, and only 2 people showed up. I mean, he was a trooper. Like, he's been in Ringo's band. He's a drummer for Ringo Starr. He's been in that band for a long time, but when I met him, he was with David Lee Roth. So, but later on, I would see him at NAMM shows. I was the teacher there, and I hung out with him a little bit. It was super nice. His dad traveled with him, Bud. Helped him, cart all the stuff around, man. It was great. So it was father-son.
That's a cool deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then after that, I would run into him at the NAMM show down in Nashville every once in a while. And then I took Gabe, who's here. Hey, Gabe, my lovely wife. I took her back to Cali so I could show her all the places, take her around and everything. And the Baked Potato is an institution where all the teachers and people just get together and play. It's very small. They added another one in North Hollywood. So when we went back, just so happened that Andy Summers from the Police, Greg Bissonette, and a young bass player that I'm not sure who it was from San Francisco flew in. They played all John Coltrane tunes. And I was like, oh my gosh, it holds 50 people. It's so intimate. It's like someone's room, right? I don't remember how I got his tickets, but I got his tickets. So we go in there, and Greg's dad, Bud's in there, who I'd met before as well. And he's with Don Famularo, who's the global ambassador of drums. He has something called the Sessions. And it's, he interviews everyone, from Steve Vai to Steve Gadd to everybody. It's incredible. So it's like, hey, and they're like, hey, why don't you guys sit with us? So Gabe and I are sitting with Greg's dad and Don Famularo, and they play Coltrane stuff, and it's great. And it's 50 of us in there. It's so intimate, And Andy Summers was actually shorter than me, which is not easy to do. And Andy was real nice, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not an autograph guy, but talked to him for a little bit, and he was really kind of just very mellow and shy, and we just kind of talked a couple of minutes and gave nice splits. So the Greg Bissonette thing kind of went on and on there for a little bit. And
that's really cool.
Speaking of David Lee Roth, one of the other stories I had was Billy Sheehan. Billy was the bass player for David Lee Roth. He had been in a band called Talus before that, well respected. Billy's also in Mr. Big with Paul Gilbert. Small world, right?
For sure.
I should have been the drummer. Anyway, this is another story. So Billy Sheehan had done some stuff at MI, and I'm with my bass player. I'm Clyde Lucky Prince, and we're in there, and Billy's telling us I'm getting this new guitar built. Prude would know who it is. I talked to him about this before. Hey, Sean. But I can't remember who was building. He's because I've got my bass player with me. So he's and he's got this wad of money. He's never had money like this before, right? And we're poor. He just literally a wad like this, and he just buys all night long, right? For some reason, my buddy was drinking White Russians. So we're drinking White Russians. We meet a couple girls from Chicago. Billy kind of gets nudged out of this, and my bass player and I sit with the 2 girls from Chicago. At this point, we've been in there all night. So, hanging with Billy, it was cool and everything. We've been hanging with a couple girls. I start nodding off because we've been at it for a while, and White Russians aren't my thing. All of a sudden, I hear some commotion as I'm kind of nodding off. I look over in the corner, and there's a little fire. And Cece DeVille's, it's at Cece's table from Poison. And it woke me up, and they got it under control. And then we left. So, and Billy dated like a girl named Joyce that was in my class. She was at the bass school, and she was always dressed for stage. I don't know if she had a BC Rich or Warlock or something bass, but he dated her for a while too. So we, see him around a little bit. So that's that little story right there. That's one of my faves. I'll roll a few more. Lemmy, we had just seen Lemmy lived at the Rainbow, basically. There's a statue of him there. So we'd just seen Motorhead at the Palladium that week, actually. And so we would do the Rainbow on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So we had just seen Motorhead at the Palladium. They were having sound problems, the first 3 songs, cutting in and out, right? But they got together finally. And you know how that is. You can deal with a little bit.
Yeah, but yeah.
You can deal with a little bit.
It's not the equivalent.
But after three songs and you're at that level, you're going to be irritated. With that being said, that's the loudest Ice Cube I've ever heard in my life, by the way.
It's a pop.
That's what it popped, but it wasn't a pop.
My glasses.
10-year reserve. I think Beth just wanted to refill you, didn't she?
No, my glasses. It's over here. It's not in her hand.
Oh, what was I talking about? Oh, Lemmy, yeah. So anyway, I run into Lemmy literally 3 days later, 4 days later at the Bow. And I start talking him up. And the thing was, everyone was it was just, it wasn't a star trip there. We were all long-hair musicians, and we were playing the True, and we were going to school and stuff, so obviously we weren't at that level. But anyone, so I said, Lemmy, we saw you at the Palladium, a few nights ago. I said, it sounded great, but I said, man, that was kind of a bummer you guys had, those sound issues the first 3 songs. Lemmy looks at me and says, but we didn't stop, did we, mate? I'm like, oh my God. And I said, no, you didn't.
Press on.
When I left, he was on a table with my guitar player singing drinking songs. Everybody that's out there probably has a Lemmy story, but he was just so that's down cool. To earth and just I
don't know too many people that have had the opportunities that you have, given the choice you made to go out there and experience what you could do and what you did. And most of us, like me, read about this stuff, but I'm never going to live it. You lived
right.
it. That's really cool.
I will say this, it was hard moving away from everybody, not knowing anyone. But I knew that, I'd kicked around here and played the Arrow, so God knows how many times already and stuff. And I loved it, don't get me wrong. But the band I was in kind of fizzled, and it was like, what am I going to do? I'm not really good at anything else. I can do some menial stuff, but I really wanted to do music. And like I said last time, I had partial scholarships at Capital or OU, and I just wasn't, it was still cost a fortune to go to Capital, but I'm just I just want to play music. And so at MI, like I said, it was just music classes all day long, different ones with great teachers, no math, no science, and none of that. So, but the Bow was a hub. So it's just the place where you would meet people. The girl that left me high and dry, getting back to my finals that I mentioned last time, ironically enough, what do you think her name is? Oh, it's Karen. Her name is Karen. She was the original Karen.
Wow.
So when I graduated from it, I had to find a job. So yeah, I'm going to play. I went to Warehouse Entertainment. It was like Tower Records. It was in North Hollywood. And it also had 12,000 videos. It was somewhere a musician would go to try and get a job. So so, okay, this is probably, I don't know, 3 months after the Karen incident, busking back to get to my finals. I get an interview for, you know where I'm going to go with this.
That's
I
right.
get an interview with Warehouse. I go there. Guess who's interviewing me? It's Karen. It is the same Karen.
Lucky you.
And I let Karen know. Karen owed Larz. after leaving me high and dry and not taking me back to my apartment after that night and not giving me any money. So
Do you stay in touch with her?
I do not. No. So she did hire me, so I got that job then. And then during the Troubadour residency, her and a girl named Penny Pipkin, I'm not making that name up, she was Filipino, would come to every gig, and they bring a fifth of tequila over to my apartment after every one of those shows. And so Mondays, I drove for a duplicating company, HVC or something like that, all over Los Angeles. And I didn't make too many Mondays that month, I got to tell you. I'd have someone calling in, hey, Clyde. I'd have my bass player, hey, Clyde, call in and tell him I'm sick. And the girl that answered the phone, his name was Karen. I don't know what is up with all the Karens, but she was super cool, so I got away with it, and I didn't lose my job. And Karen come full circle.
Perhaps we need to look her up and
I don't ever want to see her again.
Facebook connections and whatnot.
She was the assistant manager there too, so she was like always on me. Hey, let's go to the Rainbow. Hey, let's do this. No, let's not. We went there once. It didn't work out. So
trouble.
Do we have time for like maybe another story or two?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so one of the other times, there's a lot of other stuff in here. And like I said, when Biggs came out to visit me, he was the first one, and I took him, I gave him the full tour. I'm not going to tell this story because in the future, possibly when something opens up, maybe him and I can come on and we can talk about those times that we had, while he was staying with me and living out there.
That would be fun.
We'll get. I know he probably won't want to do it because he absolutely hates attention.
You know this gentleman a little stronger than myself.
Oh, I kid.
But his name does come up a lot,
I love it,
and when his name
we've been
comes
friends
up,
for a long time.
Everybody's, happy to see him. And
Exactly.
love what he has done, and hopefully what he's going to keep doing.
Yeah, we'll come in. I'll just probably let him tell most of the stories, and not that I have a choice. But yeah, so anyway, he'll have. No, he'll. That'll be fine. But so I'll save those stories, for another time, so he can tell some.
Sure. No, you know what, Larz? That's a good idea. That if you guys were out there together, and we'll have a little conversation.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like one time we were hanging out. Like what happens was when the bow closes, everyone files out in the parking lot. Okay. And then it's like, where's the party? I'll tell you where they were a lot of times. They were at our place. However, not always. But one night we're there, and they didn't make it in time to get in, but they were in the parking lot. It was Phil Collins, Steve Clark from Def Leppard. And they just flown in from the UK. And Steve Clark was the most approachable guy. Phil Collins was running around like, his nickname is Tweety Bird. He just reminds me of a bird for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, Phil Collins running around talking to girls, and Steve Clark is just like, doesn't want any part of it. And like, he's really mellow and like humble and really, so my buddy Clyde and I go over and just start talking to him. Well, it turns out they just did the first gig with Rick Allen back by himself. They'd had the drummer for, I think it was Status Quo. So Rick was back, and they were doing a big festival, but they were using two drummers before Rick, got to come back and do his own. Well, what happened was apparently the drummer for Status Quo missed his flight. So this was the first gig they did with Rick by himself. And, Steve Clark's like, and he's pissing down buckets and the gear's all wet, and he's going on and on and on. And it was just like, we just sat there and just like old friends, and he was so down to earth. It was tragic what happened to him. It was such a nice guy. Just no airs whatsoever. That was a really cool time because I was a Def Leppard fan. I mean, I still am, but
absolutely.
My first band, that first EP came out when I was like in high school, and we were playing songs off that. My first band, so it was nice. It was super cool. Yeah.
I think it was Gabe.
I think that was Gabe. Must be the pollen in the air.
Perhaps.
So I don't know, Len, you got anything you want to add here before I spring out the last couple stories?
Well, we got about 7 minutes or so before the technology starts
Perfect.
barking at us. So
Perfect.
I'd love to have you here. Keep on going.
All right. So when we couldn't afford to eat it, the Rainbow has a great menu, and we couldn't afford to eat there. I mean, we got the $5. A couple times we did, but what we did was the world famous Okie Dog was between there and our house. Okay. It's been on Bourdain's show before and stuff. It's been there forever. There's been songs written about it. So you didn't eat in. It was sheltered, and it wasn't real small stand. It was decent size. But, like Runaways hung out there, and like this is 2 or 2:30 in the morning, right? And you'd go there, and there was two Asian guys that cooked. They had the big grill with the onions and peppers, and we had the long hair and everything. And every time we go there, they'd be like, "Oh, hey metal, hey metal." They were trying to say heavy metal, and they were like a Saturday Night Live skit, but for like $2.15, $2.15 back then. You had this giant flour tortilla, 2-foot-long hot dogs, pastrami, cheese, onions, and peppers wrapped up in a giant bag of fries that you needed to get home before those fries were so greasy they'd bust through the bag. So that was like the thing. So that was our stop on the way home. It was always getting pulled over too. Well, we never got a ticket, but there was always something. It was like, well, they've been selling meth down here, and it's like, and they search the van. You'd be like, you can't warm this up in a microwave. Hurry up. We need to get home and eat. We're hungry. And so we never got a ticket. So the Okie Dog was great. That was happening. So, but one time we did, I think Clyde had some money for some reason. His parents must have sent him, or one of his girlfriends. I can't remember what it was, but once we sat and ate at the boat. Let me get a drink real quick here. My allergies are killing me.
And the door's open.
So, for once we get to sit down and eat, I sit down, and I'm not really starstruck much. I've seen a lot of people here, right? I sit down, and literally right next to me, like 2 feet away, is Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page having dinner together.
Oh, wow. That's pretty sweet.
And like, of all the things that all the people I met, that was like the coolest. And once again, I just looked over and I just remember Jeff Beck looking at me and Paige, both of them. I'm turning my head because I'm reliving the moment because I was sitting here and they were over to my right. And, I was just like, hey, and they were like, hey. And then the whole time I was trying to look out the corner of my eye without being, and I was just like trying to ease on. I think Jimmy Page might have been in the Firm then. 86 maybe? I'd have to look it up. But for some reason I'm thinking him and Paul Rogers were like in the Firm together and stuff. So, yeah, but that was probably the coolest one. And Blackie Lawless used to hang out there. He was so tall from Wasp, he could sit his drink on on the top shelf of the Rainbow. It was insane. Yeah. And just people coming in and out all the time. But so that was the most fun, place out there for me, when you would just hang out, like I said. So that's some of the club stuff. I don't know. That's some of the stories. I think, I may have covered most of the stuff on my notes. Real quickly, you asked me about documentaries last time, and I had so many spinning around in my head, I couldn't think of any. Number one is Anthony Bourdain is my all-time favorite. Now, I don't know what you want to call this. I've seen anything he's done, or Kitchen Confidential, the book, Cook's Tour, No Reservations, Parts Unknown. I've probably seen some of those shows 50 times. Like when it's late and I don't know what to put on, I go there every time. So that was one. The Warhol doc's not that old. It came out, it was a 4-part not too long ago. And that was really good. There's one on the Rainbow. That's a really good one. There's one on the Sunset Strip that's a really good one. And the one on Sound City. Have you ever seen that one?
Sound City is one of my favorites.
That's
because of the history of what
gosh.
ran through those circuits.
And Damn the Torpedoes was the very first cassette I had in my very first car, and that's where they recorded their Sound City.
Sound City did a lot.
Yeah.
It brought a lot of
very
people
wide
together.
Yeah.
And the music is, another one, Muscle Shoals.
That's a great one too.
Man.
That's a great one. That's what I'm saying. It's hard, from COVID on,
Yeah.
I'd seen so many that I really just kind of froze. I couldn't. It was just like it was spinning around. I couldn't grab one off there. When you asked me last time, it caught me off guard. So I wanted to recant and come back with, drop some knowledge on my docs.
Well, that's cool, man. I want to check some of those out.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear you relive, what you did, where you've been out there.
Right.
And, I just
I was a kid.
cool.
I was a kid. It was. I'm glad I took the initiative. My kids go, Dad, how to do? Like, I could never just go somewhere and not know nobody and live there. And I said it just seemed like the thing to do at the time. Somebody's got to do it. And it opened the door for a lot of my friends to be able to come out too.
That's cool.
Whether they stayed for a while, come out for vacation. I mean,
Trailblazer.
And if someone else would have done it, I would have been just like them. I would have been the one who would want to come out too, So there you have it. Just went out there and kind of had some fun and thought I'd come in and tell some of that little small window of my life on today's podcast.
Do you have more windows you want to, maybe in the future, maybe another 15 episodes here?
To be honest, like 90% of my music career was after that because I was young then. You know what I mean?
You rock, man. Well, I'd love to have you come back and talk about that.
Yeah, I don't want to hog it up, but we'll definitely
There'll be 15 more episodes.
What we'll do is
but that won't take very long.
We'll do a 24-hour session where we'll do them all at once.
Chop them up.
And then you can just like release
hang
them.
out.
Yeah, man.
Hang out, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Right
Larz,
on. And
Larz,
we're
thanks, man.
celebrating, our birthdays are so close that we're celebrating with Russell's 10-year reserve here. I'm 3 weeks older than Lance. So my birthday was like 3 weeks before his, and his was just recently. So we thought we'd celebrate with the little Russell's 10-year reserve and some good friendship and some good stories. And I so appreciate it. And I'm just happy that this, you shared this vision with me at Park Street Tavern, and I thought
after a gig,
after I was
it's
playing with
something I was
Third Degree
thinking about
Sideburn,
doing.
and once you said to me, someone's got to hear your stories at the Indie Oak, and I thought, what are you talking about? And then you said it at Park Street, and I was like, we've been drinking, Len's, it's not going to happen. And then the next morning, I get up, Len's already bought gear, sends it to me. I go, Gabe. She's like, well, looks like you're going to have to do it now. And I'm glad I did.
You did.
And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that you took your vision and, unlike me, who procrastinates on 13,000 ideas, actually made it happen. So cheers to you, my friend.
We have it off the
my
ground.
My old friend.
We have it off the ground, and we've known each other a long time.
Yes.
But at the same time, I appreciate this gift of good cheer.
Heck yeah, man!
And the gift of your life and your stories, man. It's fun, and I appreciate.
I appreciate you giving me a chance to. It takes a few drinks and someone I know to start spilling them, but I'm not really one to, social media wise, I'm not one to start dropping a whole bunch of stories. So you gave me a chance to just flush every name down the toilet in one episode.
There's a couple that you haven't touched upon yet, but I think that's going to come in the after years when you came back to Columbus. Maybe that, and again, I'd love to hear some of that because that's when a lot of us know you from, right?
Oh yeah, I mean that's sure. Like you don't know me from Hollywood, right?
That's
all right, Len.
Man. I really appreciate it.
Let's hang.
All right, and so we appreciate everybody listening. Larz Raymond,
Facebook, teachers,
Redu,
students, teachers.
If you need some drum lessons, be sure to hit up Larz on Facebook. He is a instructor at Music Royale.
In my house, I have my own studio on the East Side. So East Side and then Pal both.
Okay.
And playing tomorrow night, Finnegan's Wake with Toast.
Nice. And what date is that? What the year? July 22.
It's tomorrow night. So Saturday.
2023.
We better, that.
We better post
Look
that
on my Facebook
tonight.
Oh my God.
Maybe the two stoners are still up.
They're out there. They're not even in here anymore. I don't know what they're doing.
No,
I think they're fixing
no.
cheese and crackers or something.
Yes.
They ate all the cheese and crackers from earlier.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.